very much resemble the industry, very strongly. I mean, even rooted until today. So Prof. Yam can actually also elaborate the industry, the academic point of view. So let's start with immediately to me, Megat. Maybe you can start with yourself. Quick one lah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning. So first of all, I'd like to thank you, UTP and the event organizer, for giving me the opportunity to be here. And this is not obviously my first time in UTP, and Valesto has done quite a bit of initiatives with UTP, and we will continue to do that. So it's always a great pleasure to be here with you all. The bright minds of the future, right? That's what the theme is. So on the question as to why did I go into oil and gas and how I found it, all right, so I'll give you a little bit of maybe a bit of a short journey, probably about 5 minutes, right? That's the amount of time that is given. By the way, I hope after this, right, and my role is to inspire you to stay or to participate in oil and gas, because despite the negative information that's been spread around about oil and gas and how it's a dying business and all that, that is absolutely true. It's a very exciting, and I think we as the industry representative probably could do more, and I hope today I can do that part, is to try to inspire and encourage all of you to stay in oil and gas. So back to my journey, actually I started in oil and gas by accident. I graduated in computer engineering in the US, and that was in 1990. And at that time, my dream job was to work with Intel, Motorola, and my final project was actually making memory chip on a semiconductor. So then came along Exxon from Malaysia, did an interview, and then I was doing first semester of masters too at that point. And what attracted me, to be honest with you, was the salary. So in those days, Exxon said, oh, your starting salary was 2,500 ringgit. That was in 1990. It's probably equivalent to 6,000 now, right? So I said, oh, okay, well, can I do a little bit more about what I'm studying, which is computer engineering? Say, yeah, no problem. We have a lot of computer stuff on the platform and all that. Yeah, you'll be part of it. So I said, okay, where do I sign, right? So, and Exxon was the company to work for in 1990. Joe and Firoz know those times, right? And then after I came, they sent me to Kerteh, and I didn't like the place. They sent me offshore. I didn't like offshore. I tell you, I stayed 2 weeks. I went crazy. I never stayed offshore for more than 2 weeks. So, you don't have to be offshore to work in oil and gas, okay? And then I joined SLB after 1 year in KL. And the reason I joined SLB was that at that time, SLB being Schlumberger, was having a business unit focusing on computer systems. And what I did was a computer engineer to provide interpretation system to the oil and gas companies, right? So there was a big computer with a big disk, and my job was to actually install it, put it together, install the software, and get it run. And had the opportunity to work with the different clients in Malaysia and also in the region. So I stayed with SLB for 22 years. So the pivotal moment for me was there, from computer engineering, going into oil and gas, but ended up in computer, right? And then and stayed on for 22 years. I never planned to stay for 22 years, but that's how it worked out, right? And during that time, I had the opportunity to do different things. So in technical, in sales, in management, even merger and acquisition. Okay, so I got to pick up a lot of new skills and knowledge, right? Which is very important for all of you, students. Remember that, you need to continue to learn. So I had to continue to learn while I was in SLB. And even within SLB, after 5 or 6 years, I sort of transitioned myself from the computer stuff to the oil field stuff, the real stuff, drilling, logging, and all of that. So I was in charge of marketing for all of the different businesses, and that's why I learned again about the different aspects of the oil and gas. So after 22 years and working in different countries, then I made another pivotal, really difficult decision to leave SLB, and I work for Bumi Armada, which is a Malaysian FPSO company. Now, the reason I say it's pivotal because SLB focus on downhole, subsurface, whereas Bumi Armada is more on the floating, okay, and also they have vessels. So I was involved in the floating production. I was doing sales and negotiation for FPSO, and these are $1 billion and up to $1 billion to $2 billion type of project, which take 5 years to close a deal, right? So, whereas in SLB you just go into a tender and 3 months later you know whether you win or not. So this FPSO is like 5 years to actually from the start to closing a contract. And I also did supply vessels. So I was running the supply vessel business in Bumi Armada. So that was another interesting thing. Know nothing about vessels, know nothing about FPSO. I had to learn from scratch. Had to learn how the FPSO works, all these things about turret and deep water and all of that. That was another interesting thing. And then 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, I had the opportunity to lead Valesto back into drilling. Okay, with a little knowledge of drilling when I was in SLB, I've never been on drilling rig, believe it or not. So that's a big secret, right? So CEO of a drilling company has not been on the rig until he joins the company. But I had to learn again. So the message that I'm trying to say is that, learning is a continuous process, right? So you have to have your core knowledge at the very beginning, but then over the period of your journey, you should never forget about continues to expand your knowledge and your skills to improve yourself, to be able to learn about the different things. And that's how you grow, right? So, and that's the story until now. There's a lot more story to it, but, for now, I'll probably just do that
I
as
can
a summary.
watch for the money part lah. I do have a very short story here. When I first came out, I actually joined Petronas. And of course, I love the job, but I love more money lah. So, and I had a need. My father was not feeling well as well. So when I came out from Petronas about 6 months later, and I joined a company called Baker Hughes, and went straight to US and Caspian Sea and so on. They paid me 1,200 ringgit per day. I was 25 years old. So when I did my first hitch, I stuck 60 days. So that's about 70,000 ringgit paycheck. I took the 70,000 paycheck, came back to buy bike EX5, in Penang lah. So went for getting the, but I think a loan, or I can't remember. I think it's probably a half loan. So when I give the paycheck, and the guy, the motorbike shop owner, looking at me, young guy, with a slipper and all that, suddenly got 60,000-70,000 ringgit paycheck. He definitely think ini memang fake ni. Are you faking the paycheck here? So people don't believe, and that's sort of. But I think till today, if you're an offshore engineer, the pay is quite good. I think that's almost a trademark. But again, unfortunately, I had a first class, but now end up paying Petronas proudly. I paid them all. But the irony part of it is that I initially had a PTPTN loan. PTPTN loan ni convertible, first class jadi free. So, but Petronas was giving 60 ringgit more per month. So I took the Petronas. So dah lah breach PTPTN. Ended up first class. So I pay them both. Breach of contract to PTPTN, pay full. Petronas also didn't stay long, pay full. But okay lah, somebody else get the opportunity. Okay, let's go to Encik Azli. Talk about your journey back then from the beginning.
My journey, I think Megat memang real accident. I macam almost accident lah. Basically, from a family not too well off. My late father was in the army kan. So basically, I remember that to apply scholarship, I need to get certification kan from the guru besar lah, at that time. I went to see my guru besar primary school. So his advice to me, Hazli, why don't you kerja for oil and gas company? Dia kata, because then you can get scholarship. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So that's why I decided, okay, I take petroleum engineering. I don't know what it is supposed to do lah. I don't know the job of petroleum engineer. Masa tu, there's no YouTube kan. So basically, I just by faith, leap of faith, is basically trying to get a scholarship. And also at that time, I wanted to go overseas because I'm sick of tired of sitting in Malaysia or in the kampung. I just want to go out. So that's why I took scholarship. And Alhamdulillah, at that time, not many people wanted to be petroleum engineer lah. At that time I remember semua nak jadi doktor, semua want to join medical industry kan. Because as a child, 30 plus years ago, you only see either become doctor, soldier, police or fireman. Itu I think that was the main job.
Teacher.
And teacher, lawyer, teacher lah.
Lawyer.
So basically, so I took the scholarship, so I tak tahu apa-apa until masuk first year university. Then I learned what a petroleum engineer is supposed to do lah. And I think that's how I joined the industry. But I've been in the industry for about 30 years. Throughout my job, I think I've done multiple things. Only the early years lah, you focus more on engineering. So basically, in my stint, I worked in 3 different countries. I was with Megat early 2000 in Houston. So I studied not far from Houston. So my first assignment overseas was in Houston. So balik kampung lah more or less kan for about 3 years. And later on, I spent time as country head in Indonesia and country head in Turkmenistan lah. A lot of colourful stories. Encik Firuz was country head of Vietnam at one time. But throughout my journey also, I spent time I was doing stakeholder management at that time. There also, I had to do, I guess, this integrated studies for Petronas. I remember that one, I was sent to Harvard before I got that assignment. I was praying that I didn't have to do the job lah. When I came back, Encik Firuz and the job still waiting for me lah. I had to do the TN50, the Future Energy Landscape. I did that. So that was my experience. And my early years, I spent time going offshore. But my passion is really reservoir engineering. That's why later today, I will see some of you guys at 2 p.m. because I want to promote you guys to be reservoir engineers. Everybody just want to be drilling engineers. We have more than enough drilling engineers. We also need reservoir engineers. Yeah. Okay?
All right, thank you, Jazli. Let's look at Prof. Miam.
Okay, right.
How did you end up in academia, but specifically oil and gas related university?
Thank you, Anwar. Now, in my case, actually, I had a dream to become a chemical engineer right from the point when I was about to complete my SPM. So I have that vision. I wanted to work with what I termed at that time like a real industry. You know? So I got fascinated with all these tall columns, and also I decided I want to do chemical engineering. And I was also inspired by a cousin, my cousin, but he was way senior than me lah. He went to do chemical engineer, and my auntie always talked about it. You know, she was very proud of her son. So I said, okay, chemical engineering is something that I want to do. So I went for interview with Mara. I was from MRSM, by the way, MRSM Seremban. I went in for interview, and I was selected to go to Australia. Yeah, I remember the point where actually, I guess the two gentlemen want to go to US. I wanted to go to US too. Really, I heard all the sexy story about US. I wanted to go to US. But then when my mother knew that I have to go for interview for Australia, he just told me, you make sure you don't fail your Australian interview. I said, oh my God, being a good son, I said, okay, I'll do my best. And I passed the interview. And at that time, Australia, those are selected to go to Australia will go first. And Australia, and then only UK and US. So I didn't have much rest. After I completed my SPM early December, I only got hardly about 2 months to prepare, because the Australia the year starts, the academic year starts in February, so I've got to rush. Yeah, even I was selected to play sepak takraw for Negeri Sembilan at that time, and I really won. So state my representative. So I won, but my mother said no. I was very much governed by mother in a way. So, okay, so I went to Australia. Did my degree, UNSW, by the way. I noticed UNSW is participating in the competition. I did my degree at the Chemical Engineering Department, Faculty of Applied Science. I think now they are still, I don't know whether they have merged into a Faculty of Engineering. By that time, it was under Faculty of Applied Science. So, stay there for, do my HSC, and then matriculation, or HSC, and then do my degree, come back in 1988. You know, the reason why I'm fascinated by this, and I know I can get this opportunity by joining the oil and gas company. At the time, Petronas was, well, to me, somewhat rather, I wanted to join Petronas. So I wanted to join Petronas. But unfortunately, when I came back, Petronas didn't hire. Yeah, that was in 1988. The economy was bad, so Petronas did not take did not take any fresh graduate. So I do not know what to do, but my father has a friend who worked with UTM in Skudai, in KL. So my father's friend, when he heard that I got a degree from Australia in chemical engineering, and he happened to know the chemical engineering dean in UTM, so he asked my father, give his CV. So my father come back and said, make your CV. I want your CV. I want to pass to my friend. I did that. And then when the Faculty of Chemical Engineering, when they look at my qualification at that time, I think Australia qualification is somewhat being held high in that sense. So he asked me to come for interview. So I come for the first interview with the department and the faculty. So I met the head of the department, chemical engineering, and also the deputy dean. Yeah? And that guy is both. One is US, the head of department. The deputy dean is a UK guy. He graduated from I think it was UMIS or Bradford. So when he see my degree, he interviewed me and then said, okay, we want you, but you got to go to another interview. Hardly about 2 weeks after that, I was called for the interview, and that's where I got to, normally at that time UTM, the guy who would be interviewing me is the Vice Chancellor, Tan Sri Anudin Wahid. But he couldn't do that, so he passed it down to one guy by the name of Tuan Haji Fatah. Tuan Haji Fatah is his close friend. So the interview also went well. The point where I realized that I'm going to get it is the moment when I walked out. The guy was telling me, Ibrahim, please cut your hair. You know, I have a bit of a long hair, you know. Ibrahim, please cut your long hair. And true indeed, less than 2 weeks. So I came back in March. I started my job as a assistant lecturer A in UTM in May. So again, I didn't have a good break, per se. So I went. But at that point in time, I still have the intention that I want to join, because I'm always fascinated with the plant. I want to work in the chemical plant, you know. Fascinated with all those. But then as I go on through the interaction with students, and then working with peers, and then I see that I also have the opportunity to actually go to the industry to do work, because some of my seniors there, they got project with Guthrie, so they invited me, and I really take up the opportunity. So when somehow rather I sort of fell in love with academic, and then another thing that was sort of give me the inspiration is, I got to get the opportunity to masters and PhD. I think it's good, you know. So I feel good about it. So there was, after 2 years with UTM, a colleague of mine, I think you all may know him, Nek Kamarudin.
Oh, you know.
Nek Kamarudin, he got a job in SO, ExxonMobil in PD. So he asked, Ibrahim, come, join me. I said, no, Nek, I think I want to stay on, because at that time I was sort of on course to do my masters. So after that, I don't look back, in the sense that I decided to continue as an academic. So I do my masters, my PhD. But then there was another, you know, I also like you know, I got bonded with UTM.
Oh.
I came back in 95, 97, I breached my contract. I joined UTP. So I also paid my dues.
You paid also.
So at least, so I see that's when ITPSB advertised the position, they said, okay, not bad. I get to join Petronas.
Okay.
And hopefully, if I manage to get into ITPSB, then that will open the way for me to explore the oil and gas, the petrochemicals a lot more.
Tapi this not good example lah, breaching the contract. Please don't
breach.
breach the contract.
Play baru.
I'm not promoting that.
You took one question. Kahwin sebelum potong rambut or selepas potong rambut?
Selepas
Before?
potong rambut.
After?
I got married.
You sure or not? Professor asked you to cut or mother-in-law asked to cut? Anyway, interestingly, postgraduate also quite a interesting exposure to me also lah. Once I finished UTP, was a high flyer lah in a way, first class. Pergi kat sana, this is exposure because some of you are in UTP. So when you go to abroad, it's something a wake-up call lah. You go there, the lecturer, or dean of the faculty is namely Professor Alan Gringaten. I don't know if PE faculty you should know. The founder of the Bode plot. You know what he said? He said the first day of the class, semua tunggu ni. Okay, thank you for joining. So today, I will announce all of you fail. All of you fail, like a manufacturing product, dia punya concept dia. All of you fail unless prove me otherwise. And that's a concept of philosophy. Then you start, oh my God, did I choose because the government, I got the Agong scholarship, they asked me to choose any university I want. So I ended up choosing that university, that PE faculty, ended up with Alagrigaten. I tell you, that's when I started to feel, am I made the right choice? Because the kind of assignment he will give, if you are a reservoir engineer, I tell you, it's open book. You can ask anybody you want also emergency call also can, but you won't get the answer. It's open book. And he was running a well testing and also reservoir engineering. And usually he will give assignment 5:30. Usually in London, weekend is a time before marriage some more kan. You enjoy yourself lah. 5:30 he will give assignment to be submitted on Monday, and all open book. But yet you can answer, and there you go all the weekend. And usually you have to sleep at the school. So that's a kind of exposure. So sometimes you get opportunity for being academician. I think it's quite enriching also. But those tough time make you what you are today, ready for the industry, tough to the industry.
In fact,
okay,
if I can add, I got a friend doing civil engineering at that time in New South Wales. New South Wales, the structure department is the toughest in Australia. So my friend was saying, being a first year attending this static class, first day in class, they're all about 300.
Static is the easier, dynamic is more difficult.
Yes, but
Static
that's
and
right.
dynamic.
But Cik Baziram, what the lecturer said, he said, take a good look at of the person on your left and also on the person on the right. Next semester, one of them will not be here. So it's like automatically you say, 50% failure rate.
Betul.
But those are the kind of experience we have.
The class I went also, failing rate is 50%. And usually Viva is a second chance after exam. Ladies will go into, bukan softer kan. Masuk you will have all the gurus lah, Alan Gringaten, Mukherjee, all these are textbook people. Literally, they will be crying and crawling out of the room. That's how they are, Viva is. Anyway, I think let's let one talk about how, with all the preparation done by academic industry, but we at the industry sometime, we also foresee there is still a gap on preparing student versus what actually industry want. I want to coin my experience in the discussion. I want to go straight to their opinion also. There was once I attended MOSTI. MOSTI is Malaysia, Ministry of Science and Technology in Malaysia. So it was the past minister, not the current one lah. He wanted to know this gap. How do we address this gap? And that time there was a lot of buzzword related to apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is when you finish internship, you work, and then require apprenticeship to prepare. So apprenticeship, usually people don't pay that much lah. So the argument was there. And most of the professor, but not Professor Miam lah, other professor was arguing that the academy is preparing the students according to framework of the industry or framework of the nation, MQA for example. So be prepared accordingly. So it's not the fault of the students, kan? But the industry also argue that we can't have assurance to really equip them at the right role, paying them handsomely and so on, because they are not proven. Then I actually want the other side lah. I say, hey, in this situation, students coming in, and we are molding them according to what industry need. So isn't it supposed to be the responsibility of academic to ensure they understand the industry need and provide the opportunities and conduit for them to understand directly from the industry? For example, you're attending today, right? So then they can prepare themselves. How to actually now call them they are not prepared, and then not able to pay them well and so on. So how do we position this angle? Now we want to coin this, the gap between the industry and academia from this gentleman here. So let's start with Megat, please.
Yeah, so it is true that there is a gap between what the industry expects and what the academic institutions are providing in terms of the graduate engineers. But this is not new. It's been there for the last 30 years. When I started working also, it's like that, right? So there is a misunderstanding of what that requirement is, okay? And it's on both sides. So, I mean, the industry sometimes, when I say industry, there are certain organizations in the industry expect that when the engineer is hired, the engineer can go straight to work and be productive.
Okay.
Yeah? And we all know that's not going to happen. There needs to be some training that the organization needs to provide. Yeah. So in many large organizations, especially the MNCs, when you come in, there are a set of training that's been provided, right, that you will need to go through. Okay. Now, what most of the organizations in the industry expect is that your ability to be able to learn and get up to speed very quickly, right? And how do you do that? It's what you learn for 4 years, which is problem solving, which is learning, right? So, which is understanding the basics, the engineering principles, the science. If you have that foundation strong enough, you'll be able to come up to speed very quickly, right? So that's number one. Number two is your soft skills. Very, very important, yeah? Now, a lot of graduates think that as long as they have a 4 flat, they will be able to get a job anywhere, anytime. Absolutely not true, right? Unless you have a 4 flat in a very niche area and you're working for a research organization who just needs that. But in reality, a lot of organizations is looking for somebody who has a bit more broader skills and ability to communicate, to interact, right? And also to be able to, engage with the different people in the team. Okay, and that soft skill is very, very important. And that's why we do interviews. We want to assess how are you in those areas, yeah? So, of course, the first level of interview is technical skills to make sure that you didn't sleep through the 4 years. Okay. Yeah, and then the most important part is the second interview is to assess whether you fit in the culture of the organization. That's it, right? So those two needs to be balanced. So, and I'm happy to say that UTP actually produced a lot of very good graduates, right, over the time. So you know, well done to you guys. We've seen in the industry, and when I say industry again, across all the different companies and peers that I speak to, the quality of the students coming from UTP seems to be balanced on that area. So keep it up. And then I've seen myself personally when I attended conferences and, you know, participations of the UTP students that are out there, you know, asking questions, very, very good, difficult questions, you know, up in the open, so not afraid, right? So keep it up. That's good. I don't think we have an issue between the gap of what the UTP graduates come out and what the industry wants. I think generally outside of this, you know, we have some challenges.
Okay, Prof, you have to stay beyond UTP. You're going to defend this position, but do not represent UTP, because UTP may be okay, you know, the better one. But how about the rest? Now I want to go back to Hazli. Now we said that. So do you agree that we still require extra module like apprenticeship and so on to prepare? And secondly, how if you position yourself as a student, would you won't be asking, hey, I spent 4 years or 5 years, depending on the nature, and why industry and academia didn't work together to prepare those gap bridging modules? Of course, not the niche one, the non-niche one. So where is lacking here? So, Hazli.
I think the industry that academia, since many years ago, like Encik Megat said, they've been trying to work together lah. Basically, I'm sure they have the differences in opinion, which is good lah. Macam, I think the academia, for example, they don't simply follow what the industry want. The industry also don't follow 100% what the academia want. Okay. So that creative tension to me is good lah. I think like Megat says that basically the universities, provided you don't sleep through the 4 years, is that it gives you some basics on the technical. At least you're familiar on the term. Like Prof was talking about the static class, dynamic class. If you ask me now, I cannot remember many of those things. But it gives you the basic, it train your brain actually. So it train your brain. True. But later on is that as you join the industry, you get used to something new. For example, when I first joined the company, all the term is, because my degree is petroleum engineering, quite familiar with the term, easier for me to catch up. my colleague from non-petroleum engineering, they have to do a bit more catch up lah. So basically, I could rest a bit my first year while these people are catching up. So basically, it teaches you on the problem solving. So you can pick up new things. I can see, the T-shirt IRDC kan. So a lot of well engineers that Petronas want to take in, they have to go through IRDC. I think 1 or 2 years kan program. That one is special program. A lot of people outside want to join, but Petronas only take it for the people that we want to be well engineers. And we take these people, doesn't have to be petroleum engineering, they can be mechanical, other thing. So as long as they have engineering basic, we teach them for a couple of years for them to learn this thing here. So the ability to absorb new things quickly lah, the problem solving, leadership skill, soft skill, very important. Like Megat says that we check on the fitness of the culture. Can you fit? Can you work in our organization, for example? Nowadays, we see the young people, some people term it the strawberry generation. For example, sorry, but
baru ni.
because when we work sometimes, not all the time, hopefully, you are under a lot of pressure. So you need to be able to withstand the pressure. You need to be able to solve problems along the way. You need to be able to work with people. For example, during my 30 plus careers, I've managed at least one big crisis when I was in Indonesia. It was something that you have to really learn to work with people on the fly and how to solve problem, how to become, how to be leaders. I think those are very important.
Yep. Yeah. Diamond indeed made with the pressure, intense pressure and temperature, not on the surface. So now all eyes on you. MQA are going to listen this. Maybe kita pass to MQA. Macam mana nak defend ni? So academia, how do we defend the academia ni? It's important.
Okay. There was one point in time, I think one of the vice chancellor, very senior vice chancellor, I do not want to mention his name.
Okay.
He was saying that the sort of the aspiration that the university had is to produce graduates that have competent in knowledge, knowledge. And he was saying that it's up to the industry to help and shape it up. The university cannot do that because the university have to teach somewhat knowledge. I guess from that understanding, we're saying that broader knowledge. University have to teach broader knowledge. But when they join industry, obviously there are certain part of the knowledge yang industry require for the person to actually go in deep. So he said up to the industry to actually develop it. But that was the perspective. But I think over the years, when I look at the perspective, I think now a lot of university and also NQA begin to realize, somebody have to give way, at the end of the day, academic ni kena. I'm glad I joined UTP in the sense that UTP ni was given birth by an industry.
Okay.
And what UTP did at the point when they started was actually we go and talk to many stakeholders. We developed the master plan. And as we talk to the stakeholders, then we actually realize the one that industry nak ni, as what Cik Megat said. Yeah, you have sufficient knowledge, technical knowledge. You don't have to be specialist like hell. I mean, you just for the
it's okay, forgiven.
But you don't have to be a very specialist per se. But more importantly is how do you adjust your soft skill? How do you adjust? Do you have that critical thinking ability? Do you have that passion for long life learning? Do you have the ability to solve complex problem? These are the things that actually the industry was looking. Bukan the industry kata no, because you don't have enough technical knowledge. That's why we don't. That wasn't what the industry want. And that's why when UTP developed the curriculum, we actually put in elements like bringing a young lecturer coming from industry to share. Yeah, of course, the lecturer at the university will give the sort of the theoretical perspective, but the young will give you the industry perspective. And then we fought very hard on the internship, the 7-month internship, right? So that is the avenue that will, and we actually go into a very tight fight against the EAC at one point in time.
Okay.
They were threatening that UTP punya ni dia nak apa ni, because we only have 3.5. Well, we have 7 semesters. They want 8 semesters.
Okay. They're very academic lah.
You mean MQA lah?
At that time, the EAC they already formed.
Okay,
so
okay.
we actually went on sort of a longer lah. Because we wanted to defend that 7 months. So out of the 4 years, we do not want to extend. And they were saying you should do 4.5 years in order to. And that's where we do all this creative punya ni lah. 3 semester in a year, back to back lah, and then we adjust kan. But alhamdulillah we are able to overcome that. Now we are a lot more stable lah.
In fact, internship, if I remember, UTP is the longest, and other universities
Betul.
struggling because
Tak
they
buat.
say they cannot defend with MQA. Then you must be did something well to actually defend your position.
I guess the point is when they see how UTP have done it and how did our graduate fed with the industry. And now I think more
It's
and
fruitful
more
lah.
of them you know, the university also begin to think creative also.
UTP about 6 months bro.
7.
7 months.
7 months, okay.
The longest. Others were struggling until
Only
today.
3.
Yeah.
As a IAP, Industry Advisory, the first comment, please extend your internship, but cannot. But UTP can.
But just another one, your grade still good. When we interview, your grade indicate whether you can work hard or not.
Yeah.
That's all.
Not necessarily guarantee that you will do that.
Because my experience, I remember I applied 2 jobs, Petronas and Exxon. I got both, but I joined Petronas because of mainly the scholarship, which is, looking back, is the right decision. But I remember one of the lesson learned when with Exxon, they look at me from SPM result, universities and all, and semester by semester. They say, okay, you see a consistent trend. They actually draw a trend. It's like apa decline curve kan, production forecast. They actually decline the trend, but it's not decline curve lah. This one is hopefully exponential. Yang naik atas lah, naik atas.
Oh, betul ke ni? Okay. Anyway, talking about the flexibility and soft skill, believe me, even in my role also, was kept changing. Technical, yes, technical domain is important, but business acumen and scale is very important, and mother-in-law sometimes play a very important role. Because when I joined my third company ni, I was managed to work together with the company until its listing in Bursa. So a lot of corporate exercise and so on lah. So I learned through the process, and after that I resigned. Then my kahwin after resign, during the resignation, because they don't know kahwin, bukan nak forfeit the information lah. But after that resign. Then my mother was looking at me, are you sure no what you're doing? You baru kahwin anak ni. And then suddenly resign from one of the top position lah. Because I thought, okay, entrepreneurship something I want to really pursue. At that point of time, I was 36 years old, so I thought, that the right time to move in lah. But you cannot see a path that not necessarily a trajectory that you foresee 15 years ago, that you will be a technical champion, technical domain. So you have to be adaptable. I think UTP have that element, adaptability, skill, and that's why we call it well-rounded lah. Bukan well-rounded macam ni lah kan, but well-rounded in traits and skills. I think that's a trait of what industry also needed lah. But move on to
there's another one that if we look at the trend now. You see, as we go forward, the complexity of the problem solving now is getting more and more integrated.
Betul, true.
That's why recently you see UTP has introduced the integrated engineering. Integrated engineering doesn't mean general engineering, please. In fact, we have problem also when we talk to the BM apa semua, MQA or BM kan. They think that, is this a general engineering? Say, no, this is not general engineering. Integrated engineering means you can be strong anchoring in the field where you want, but your breadth of knowledge and the ability to actually integrate the knowledge from the other disciplines come into the problem solving. Yang itu yang penting. That skill is not easy to develop because we have to not just change the syllabus. The way we structure the curriculum is different. We cannot teach you fluid mechanics, thermodynamic in separate way. We got to teach them in an integrated way so that you can see how to apply that. That's one. Secondly, the way we teach, we cannot be like, a lecturer lah, talk and then draw boards, You got to actually provide a lot more projects, and then there must always be strengthening as we go up. More projects, and then a lot of discussions, a lot of experience, learning experience that has to be given. And this is what we are incorporating into the program that will we launched last year November, and we'll start the first batch in September, inshallah.
I want to move on to very important aspect, which is important to Malaysia. Okay, now, I bukan nak kritik UTP lah, but I'm from UTP. So now, when I went to UK, I start to see university ni macam sekolah menengah je, London School of Economics. If you go to YouTube, you can see very simple. But what's coming out of it is beautiful, very, very interesting, provoking the world, and same also Imperial College. I mean, okay, sizable, big, maybe as big as UTP. In fact, not as in many aspects, probably they are lacking. But what's coming out of the Imperial is also groundbreaking, in especially life sciences. They really grew groundbreaking research. So now then I start to realize, or even through my life experiences, when I thought, actually it's not a matter of university, it's a matter of substance. How do we, substance is brains the people like, the students and the lecturers together, how do the community come together through what is intended for? A university not only to educate, but it's beyond. It's actually solutioning to the community, solution to the nation, solution to the industry. But I think in my view, I think we are lacking on that part. We have to acknowledge first, if you want to make any, first must acknowledge, if we want to make any meaningful change. Now, we are lacking in terms of, we have all kind of opportunity, sometimes industry is there to support, fund. That's another big important thing. We do have fund, we do have ideas, but nothing concrete, or I won't say nothing, but there's not sufficient volume of research or the output from the university that can become solution to the people, to the community, to the nation, and so on. So in UTP, or even across the board, Malaysia, so where do we see the innovation technological landscape need improvement? How do we make it happen? Because otherwise it's wasted. We have a nation, we have a big budget, a university have a big budget. How to make sure this resoluteness is there to produce groundbreaking products and solutions? So maybe anybody can start, no problem. Anyone have
maybe we hear from the industry first.
Industry dulu Megat.
Okay. Okay, so this is a very passionate topic or subject to myself, right?
Okay.
Because I've spent 22 years in SLB, and SLB is one of the leading all-field technology service provider.
Okay.
Okay. I've been to their research centers, their development centers. I've seen how they do it. And then I'm back in Malaysia working for Malaysian companies, and I see a clear, big difference between how a technology-driven company runs its company and a Malaysian company that runs its company, right? And then I look at it again further, there must be a fundamental issue with that, right? And the fundamental issue is we as a country, really, trying to take it a bit more at 30,000 feet, right? Now, I did a bit of a checking. Now, Prof. Ibrahim can correct me or wrong or not, because I use ChatGPT as a reference. Okay?
Bahaya sangat.
So I tried to ask ChatGPT, how many patents are actually there in Malaysia under Malaysian patent records?
Okay.
It says 100,000 only.
Whoa, that's a lot.
That's not a lot.
But not much
100,000 is
coming
not
out.
a lot, right? So that's patents. And then I asked, how many of those are actually related to oil and gas? It's only 1,000 plus.
Oh, that's very little. Yeah.
Okay, so, and then, if I look at around Malaysia, and then you don't have to take oil and gas, you take the semiconductor industry, has been here for a long time, right? We talk about it sometime. I mean, what sort of innovation has come out of semiconductor? Are we now the new microprocessor company that makes microprocessor? We don't.
No.
Are we making a state-of-the-art memory chip? No, we still take the design from the foreign companies and we manufacture them. So we have not really moved up, right? So that's why I say it's a country issue. And I think we, the academic institution and the industry has a role to change that.
Yep.
Okay? So where do we need to change that? If you look at a lot of the collaborations that's happening today between the industry and the academic, there's a lot. But it's mainly things like this, donation, sponsorship of students, practical work together.
Yeah,
But
training.
there's very little on science. All right? When I look at SLB and what they did, right, they have a research center. They separate a research and development center, completely different. Right? So research is working on science, new sciences, new materials.
New fundamentals.
Okay? Development is looking at how do we make it commercial.
Yep.
Right? So where we can make a difference is on the science, because if the industry expects UTP to do a developmental project, it's not right?
It's not
Because
right.
you need the industry practical experiences to know how to make it commercial. True. But where the university can come in is on the science. That's why you guys do a lot, the theories and coming up with the new science, the new math, the new physics and all that, right? And then from there, that's where the patents come in, right?
I want to resonate back to what you say actually. I went to MOHI, lobby, Malaysia, Ministry of Higher Education in Putrajaya. You can go today, hopefully it's still there. There will be a big chart the chart will be indicating pattern, right? Every year punya pattern. But there will be no information on how many of those pattern, what happened actually. Nobody follow through, and there is nobody actually need to see the chart. Something wrong. It's a very missing link, right? I think from there also you realize that not only UTP lah. It's again not about UTP. It's about the whole academia industry.
Let me just add a bit more.
Yeah,
I know,
please.
for example, I agree with Megat. I think at Petronas, we send people to studies UTP and overseas universities. There are, university in France that we send, for example, some of our explorationists. The comment that we receive back, individually, functionally, these people are good. So it looks like, just like my personal guess is that the ecosystem that doesn't work, very difficult. So the Malaysia ecosystem, I guess some the company ecosystem that doesn't work. That's why some of the initiative that we are doing now, when we do partnership, I ask the team, why don't we study from that guy how to make it work, the ecosystem. For example, so functionally we are good. That's why, for example, we end up having many people working overseas, a company that has a very good ecosystem. The same people, for example, they produce product. For example, I was told, if I'm not mistaken, what you call the thumb drive, it was invented by Malaysian, right?
Yes, correct. In
Example,
Sarawak.
by invented overseas. Example. So functionally, we are good. As you all know, many of us during school very excellent in science and mathematics, but it's the ecosystem that doesn't work. So you have to work very hard to make the ecosystem work. For example, that's why even my previous role as VP of Development, and in now, I'm passionate about connecting with the universities. For example, like Prof knows, my team also work with UTM. For example, I told Prof, don't worry, I also work with UTP. I also find ways to work to help also I know, for example, like Datuk Bacho and our technology group, they also invented companies and institutions. You say we have this problem, please help us to solve this problem. They give grant even to some of the universities. So we, as Malaysians, we must find ways to work together how to make the development work. Like Megat says, our people very good in doing research, but how to monetize the research, there's the issue lah. In Petronas, we spend a lot of money, Cik Feroz knows, on research fund, but what is the return on this? Because we need to produce product so that Malaysia can move up in terms of the economic scale lah. We cannot be the cheap labor of the world. We are not cheap labor of the world anymore.
Shouldn't be. And I tend to agree. In fact, the individuals, you talk about individuals, the same individuals, they go to UK, they turn around and be in the team, they produce fantastic solution. But not in Malaysia.
It's the ecosystem.
Betul. I setuju. In fact, in Imperial, one thing, I think our president of UTP also di sini kan, so we can hide. If you go to Imperial, if you go to laboratories, there will be a lot of laboratories complex, right? There will be a timetable. If you see the timetable, the ecosystem lah, the SME companies all booked on the laboratory that is belong to university, because all of them have something to take away from the university, and so collaborative. It's a part of the ecosystem. It's built in the university, not externally. It's a part of it, and which we don't see here. In fact, not only UTP lah, but most of the academia.
But I think UTP has done quite a bit lah.
Quite a bit lah.
We as a group, as a Malaysian, need to work more.
In Malaysia,
and that's why
to improve.
I'm very basically proud. Example, I was staying at a hotel in Ipoh. I met at least 2 of Petronas staff who are adjunct lecturer. I said it's very good.
Yep.
As I said earlier, UTP ni, we are very lucky to be under Petronas. In fact, now we see Petronas is also creating the ecosystem. I agree with all of you gentlemen. I think Malaysia ecosystem ni hasn't reached the point. Although we have a lot of good people, but hopefully as we learn from those countries, we have got the ecosystem we are able to develop. But we have to consider funding. In the first place, takkanlah Petronas nak fund everything.
Yalah, true.
So in fact, kalau kita tengok the amount of government funding into, even I was contacted by Mohin nak tanya how much Petronas dia nak bubur under the GDP percentage. But Petronas spend a lot, so Petronas will be contributing already berapa percent from the Malaysian GDP. But I think it has to, the other party has to has to believe in it and help to create lah. Kan? In fact, I agree with macam we are partnering also with quite a lot of universities yang ada, this kind of ecosystem. In my recent visit to Aré-Metier, one of the French punya leading engineering schools per se, Aré-Metier, I can't pronunciation dia. Aré-Metier.
Oh, okay.
So when I met the punya management, so we were talking about I'm talking about this creating, because I think one of Cik Pirus punya aspiration is UTP, let's develop a lab that is funded by corporate lah, from
Absolutely.
industry. So we're trying to explore that. And so as I was having a conversation with them too, I noticed the president of RMHA was telling me, I talk about marketing, dia kata, oh, we are not very good at marketing. Memanglah dia tak perlu good at marketing because the industry came to them. So they don't develop the marketing ability in that sense. So they're not good at marketing. So bila you pergi, memang you tak nampak, ni marketing
Dia tak pandai jual lah.
tak pernah. But the industry come because they have already got that. Now the question is how macam kita ni different, we still have to do marketing. Well, ni macam another thing Petronas, my experience looking at some of my colleagues from UTP kan, they were able to actually channel dia punya invention into application.
Right.
And it has been replicated in many of Petronas punya plants. So we're seeing successful a lot of saving, a big saving from Petronas in that sense. Enhance proses punya ni, but of course it's about packaging solutions juga,
Right.
kan? But I think this is something that hopefully we will continue working with Petronas, and I think UTP now we have restructured ourselves. Now we have president and provost, so that the focus that Chief Feroz and the provost have to deliver, jadi allow us to be more proactive in terms of soliciting partnership, soliciting fund, kan, working on this creating.
I think we have to give credit now. From as an alumni, I saw the transformation plan. This is the right time. We talked about ecosystem. Actually, it's one of the way the transformation plan should work out, and hopefully, bring the success that UTP need, and it's really needed. Otherwise, it's a lost fortune because we have been here for a century, the oil and gas industry. And the industry, after PDA also has been robust for the past 5 decades. So if we cannot tap into the opportunity and understand and harness the strength, then who else will be from our industry? So, okay, that's one side of it. Let's now move on to another angle of the skill sets, the future engineer, because things are changing. The way we do business in the past is slightly different than what could be done now and what will be in the future. I think there was one many years ago, Tun Dr. Mahathir, in a summit, he highlighted that actually the only constant is the changes. I think we all know that. But the world moving at the unprecedented rate, those who can harness and understand those things will be the winner. But those who cannot, unfortunately lah. So I think we have a lot of example. Nokia is one of the examples. Many examples who left behind. But things are changing. So in the changing nature, how a university, maybe with the collective strength of the industry, to make sure that we keep changing. Even our own industry, oil and gas, is changing. Climate action, the decarbonization, AI being built in, and it has become a necessity now. It's no longer option to put some module to make sure it looks sexy, but actually it's probably the thing to make sure the students are marketable, solutions are coming out, the university are relevant to the industry. So maybe we go on that point now. So let's start to hear from Encik Hazli dulu ke?
Yeah, always me, so give him.
Yeah, Hazli, jom.
I think we touch a bit on the skill set, the future skill set. I guess we talk about the leadership, learning something new, all this networking ability. I guess to talk with people to make friends. I think because of the advance of internet and computer the past many years, I think many of the young people, in my view, they lose this skill in terms of networking, making friends Because I always wonder when I was small kan, kita main kat luar, I was catching spider, trying to even shoot the lizard and all those things, catch fish I think I didn't know that I learned something from those activities until nowadays when I look at some the kids, including my kids, for example, is that because they didn't do all these things, they only play with the computers, they lose this ability. For example, when you go to workplace, you have to work with people. You cannot be working from home forever. That's why this is the skill set that you want, learning new things. And nowadays, with the AI explosion, they call it, I think I'm very worried about this AI if we don't take advantage of it. But I just assume this new role, we're managing some new assets, some old asset. I remind my asset managers in terms of the importance of AI. We really have to learn and how to take advantage of AI lah. If you look at, we're talking about some of the computer science graduate in the US, they cannot find job because coding done by AI, and also they outsource a job to cheaper place like in India, for example. So there's something similar I'm sure will happen to Malaysia too on certain aspect. So very important that for us is that to upskill ourselves so that we can move up the value chain and take advantage of AI. Malaysia is hosting a lot of data centers. I'm always wondering what data center hosting can provide us lah. I guess the data very near to us. How do we harness the value of data? How do we do that? If you look at the oil and gas industry, we are producing more and more oil and gas nowadays, especially with the unconventional. But we are using 25% less people nowadays to produce the same amount of oil and gas. So very important so these 25% people, I guess, what do they do? So very important for them to, I guess, reskill themselves, re-equip themselves in order to be ready for the future opportunities. I think population is growing, energy demand is growing, so must make sure you learn about other things lah. I think many of us, when I graduated, I didn't learn much about solar and everything, but it's something that I have to learn on my own. So during my time to learn, I guess it was easier, very slow pace. The people who can go to the computer with internet, they are the one who learn.
Yep.
But nowadays, everybody has access to computer with internet. You can learn everything,
Instant.
almost anything. So it's very important that you observe the trend, you pick up the trend, you relearn and re-equip yourself and be prepared. And don't forget about the human side of things. That's one thing that, there are stories that I hear from my friends who own the companies, but I cannot tell in public that type of stories because very mind-boggling stories. With some of the young people, what they do. Okay?
Itu dia. Ni kena private chat ni. They're talking about the data, very very interesting. When I first entered university, I was waiting because the hall was prepared during the year of my graduation, which means the library lah. So we were in the old library during those days. I think my days also, Yahoo is more famous than Google. And literally, if you go to Yahoo, you want to find more information, you type probably 10 or 20 result only. Now you got, 2 million result of anything you type. But the point is that you type and loading time is enough for you to go to coffee machine, brew a coffee, come back, mungkin tak siap lagi search dia. Those were days, but now you got everything instant. You can find about me immediately while I'm talking to you, Anwar, you get everything. So the revolution of the IR 4.0 and revolution of data-related technologies are immense and tremendously encroaching to every aspect of life. So let's hear from Megat. How do he see this trend?
I think you got to be adaptable, right? To put it simply. As an example, if you look at 4 years ago, just coming out of COVID, what was in most demand? Software engineers, right? So at that time, software engineering and software engineers and, all those are booming.
Yeah.
It was never enough. And here we are 4 years later, everybody is firing all the software engineers, So, you just open the news and you see all these IT companies. They all say that, coding can be done by AI now, so we don't need so many software engineers. So my point is that you got to keep pace with what is going on because the world is changing so fast. Today is AI. In 4 years, what is it going to be, right? But that doesn't mean that you know what's going to happen. That's why I say you got to be adaptable. So the best way is that in your final year, sense around what is the industry is hot about. And today we are hot about AI. So in your final year, take as much courses or learning about AI, right? So that when you go for an interview, when you do your final project, it's about that. And your marketability will be better, okay? But then, after that, things will change and then something else will come up and we'll just have to see what it is. But the key thing is to be adaptable, not to forget your core engineering or your core discipline has to be strong. So that one you can never compromise, right? So if you're a chemical engineer, if you're, accountant, or if you're, a mechanical engineer, make that strong. That's your core. But then the other things that can add value to your core is what you need to be focusing on.
Yep. Okay. I just want to test. Can you tell me more about Megat Zariman?
How can I help you today?
Please tell me
This
more
not
about
scripted.
Megat Zariman, Venesto Energy Berhad. Ada tak?
This is scary. I don't know what's going to come out.
But it will come out. Yeah. Anyway.
And this is live, by the way.
Okay, let's go to
Okay.
Prof. Miam.
Yeah. You know, guys, actually, when you come to think of it, over the last six decades that my age is about 60 years, and so 6 decades. A lot of us, I think, most of us are around that, middle upper Asia. We have seen tremendous changes. Initially, all the changes was actually taking at a slower pace, and then it picks up, and now it's even,
Exponential.
God knows. I mean, I can't describe how fast we are actually doing changes. I remember. I mean, we surely remember the days when we go to the bank, and we queue, take numbers, and then fill up the form, and then go to the counter, and then wait for the money to come, and then use the money to buy things. Now you don't have to go to the bank at all. At all. Even if you want a loan also, you don't have to go to the bank. You can call the bank, ask for advice, blah, 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 and then you just do everything online. You can manage your account, everything online. And then you see, then banks start to release a lot of their workers. So there's a power of having the online system. Now, let me take on the other side of the industry. Now, imagine, if you're talking about digital twin, let's suppose if you have a chemical plant, a real chemical plant running, and you have a digital twin sit in the office, right? When you look at digital twins, you don't need many people to actually run. Because on the digital twin itself, you can actually get the digital twin to actually get data, live data from the plant, and then do analysis, advise you, give all those alert if anything going to happen. So at the end of the day, how many people do you actually need to run a plant? Same goes for offshore. I think offshore now, Petronas has been spoken about manless platform for years. So I mean the aspiration of going towards it is still there. So with the AI coming up, I think we've got to really think creatively. What would be the future scenario? What are the kind of people that we need to produce to continue to be relevant? I don't know, university also should think. Maybe we also become, if you have enough AI to actually generate all those curriculums, all those.
You don't need professors, right?
The lecturer also digital twin.
But don't be discouraged and think the world is going to end lah. I think population is growing, and as the country get wealthier, they will have higher demand for products. So I think that will be the job coming in lah. The thing is that where is that demand lah? Something that we have to understand. That's what like Megat say in terms of you need to be able to adapt and observe the trend.
I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm speaking about the reality and the way we need to work strongly in going forward. We have to really use all the imagination we had. University itself has to continue changing. That's why we are introducing the integrated engineering, and we are thinking now about actually expanding, going into double major or double degree to allow for
very good lah.
that
UTP
kind of
quite
things,
innovative. I think I'm excited to hear about integrated engineering. Actually, let me just start on petroleum engineering. It is integrated engineering actually. Engineering discipline, there are 4 traditional engineering disciplines: electrical, mechanical, civil, and chemical. That is the 4 pure engineering discipline. The rest, aerospace, everything is combination of things. For example, petroleum engineering is combination.
Many things.
For example, my university, the first 2 years, we all learn the same thing, the big class. The last 2 years, you start to specialize. So I always ask my lecturer, why do I need to learn about all this static, dynamic, or thermodynamic? I use very little for the subsurface, but it's very important.
Also to chemical, even though mechanical. By the way, UTP were the test case for petroleum engineering. Area Ward was in conception with us. So 4 years of mechanical, final year PE. But now you got a full faculty lah. So kita punya journey tak habis, kita dengar jugalah. Megat Zariman punya case.
Megat Zariman Abdul Rahim is the President and Executive Director of Valesto Energy Berhad, a leading Malaysian oil and gas services company, particularly known for its drilling services and jackup rigs. He was appointed to this role effective February 25th, 2022. Here are some key highlights about
Tanya dia
Megat
punya account
Zariman
number
and
boleh?
his role at Velesta.
Which account he have? Where is the most money restored? Buyer ni. Okay. I think before we're going to close, but before we close, we want to talk about the topic of youth and engineers is fine. But fossil fuel ni, we haven't touched yet lah. So we want to talk a little bit about fossil fuel industry here. Now, I think Olivier Encik Hazli Sham is a regional director. Olivier is the president. In the last presentation, he brought out some points of the importance of fossil fuel, which the angle that I was thinking that is fascinating, because he connected how the fossil fuel industry, evolved other industries to make our lifespan beyond our lifespan kept increasing. If you realize. In the early, 18th century and till today, if you search from Google or whatever you want, our age expectancy has been increasing, because the science has evolved by the help of fossil industry. That's why we always call ourselves the fossil industry or oil and gas industry, particularly a molecule supplier. We supply molecules. Encik Feroz this morning have talked about everything that you see and touch actually got molecules of oil and gas industry, shoe polish lah, fabric manufacturing got solvent related to oil and gas, table, LCD here, everything. So, and of course, medical devices too. And many of this has caused us to live longer and healthier. So in that conception, that's one, on the life side of it. Another one is economic empowerment, socio-economic. In Malaysia alone, I think this is data that you can search in MIDA or anywhere you want. So 40% of the government proceeds in 2023, I think Encik Feroz was presenting too, if not mistaken, upstream as Malaysia asset, celebration. So 40% of the government proceeds for Malaysia actually coming from oil and gas. 20% of GDP, were quite significant, coming from oil and gas. But the key point here is, our population of workers of oil and gas industry is 1% of the total working population of Malaysia. So in a way, if you turn around, 1% of the working adult produce 40% of the income to the government. That's very interesting, right? If you just convert the number. 1% of working adult produce 20% of GDP, quite significant. And then you do your calculation about total GDP and so on. So basically what the final conclusion here is, an engineer or professional in the industry, you actually produce 20 times contribution or multiplier effect compared to average other profession. That's very important. That means you provide 20 times help to the nation in building the nation. So I want to hear about fossil fuel industry kan. So this will be this is a final segment of the podcast. So let's hear from Encik Hazli. Your point.
Okay. I think I mentioned this when I was in Sabah recently for Sabah Oil and Gas Conference exhibition. There are about 200 countries in the world. 20% of these countries are developed countries, but they use about 50% of the primary energy supplies lah. So I think I don't believe in the word energy transition. My view, it is energy expansion. I think Encik Firoz saying about energy addition, right? So basically you're adding to this, it will expand. I think energy expansion, I give credit to Terry Palish, 2024 SPE president, he coined the term. So if you look at coal, has been around for more than 100 years. And still around, still going to be around. To me personally, I welcome the addition of new energy system, renewable, solar, and those things, and hydrogen, hopefully. So, but all this will be around, for example. This one, first, the demand will increase. And for countries, for example, very important to have multiple energy system. That one will ensure the energy security. Because if you're dependent only on one energy system, energy security is at risk. For example, a couple of years ago in the UK, for example, they have a lot of wind generation capacity. At one time, there was no wind. So they had to rely on gas, on fossil fuel. So I guess gas is very versatile, the cleanest fossil fuel. I was the president of Malaysian Gas Association for 5 years. All this CCGT, very fast for you to, start back after it being done, for example. So very important. And gas is very versatile. You compress it to LNG. Malaysia, we are very capable LNG players. We compress the gas 600 times. We can transfer to almost anywhere around the world. We know how to do gas trading and all those things. So, and we have produced a lot of things from gas. Like Encik Firoz said earlier, Anwar said earlier, a lot of things here coming from gas molecule actually, including some the ladies' makeup. If you go to the Petronas research in Bangi, they said they supply some of those things for SK2. which is very expensive,
Skin
I was told.
products,
Right? So I think fossil fuel is here to stay, but we need to be more responsible, make sure we produce it, responsibly. Make sure we don't damage the environment, make sure we help the energy security, and we must help to uplift life of people around the world. Just before I close, for example, Petronas, we spend close to 4 billion ringgit in scholarship for people, mostly Malaysian, also for people around the world that we operate in. I was one of the receiver of Petronas scholarship many years ago. You know, otherwise, I think from my family money, I don't have money to go to the US. So Petronas took a chance upon me just to promote you all. So when I graduated, I received offer from Exxon by my late father, very loyal. He said, Hazli, they paid for your scholarship.
You have to lah.
You join them. Very important. He said to me, jangan jadi kacang lupakan kulit. So that's why I think in closing, so I encourage you guys, if you get scholarship, please stick to it. Only Allah knows, God knows what is best for you. And it turned out for me, this is the best decision for me. Okay, thanks.
I think I pun disclaimer lah, kulit yang tak lupakan kacang. Terbalik, I
I'm
kulit
not-
tapi
I'm not
tak
talking
lupakan
about you
kacang.
lah.
I came back serving all the way for the past 20 over years. And every year I contributed in many ways to Petronas or UTP in every capacity possible. And the more importantly, I pay back to make sure that money can be used for another student. So alhamdulillah kacang tu boleh lah lagi pakai.
Kacang jumpa kulit balik.
Kulit tak lupakan kacang. Okay, kita pergi Megat.
Yeah, so oil and gas is still going to be here. Right? So, I mean, you look at a lot of reports, even by 2050, the demand is still going to be 100 million barrels of oil. What's changing is that as a percentage of the energy source, it'll probably be lower because by that time, renewable comes in, hydrogen comes in, but it's never going to go away. The challenge we have today is how do we do it, like as we say, responsibly, okay, cheaply, and safely.
Yeah.
It's getting more complex. Okay, so to give you an example, in 1965, there was only 364 billion barrels of oil reserve. In 2024, it's 1.5 billion. And it's not from new oils that discovered. It's actually an expansion of the existing oil field, right? It's improved extraction. Yeah, it's expanded area, right? And it's all because of technology. Okay, so oil and gas, somehow the perception of the use of technology is not there. But there are a lot of technologies that we didn't talk about it that actually allows that increase from 64 billion to 1.5 billion, right? 2D seismic, 3D seismic, horizontal drilling, okay? And now, a lot of the technologies is about digital. So we got digital oil field. Petronas has that. We got real-time operation center, right? Even on the Valesto rig, we got real-time drilling, just like your self-driving car. It drills by itself. Okay, so all those. And we're going to install the first robotic arm on the rig in a couple of months together with Charigali. Okay, so we have robots on the rig. So we have all these things. What we need more, this is where you come in. We need the young talents, the Gen Z, to come in and tell us this is how we do it better. This is how we make it a lot more effective, cheaply, right? So, there's always going to be a future. So get that misperception that, oil and gas is dying out of your mind, because it's always going to be there. The exciting part is that technology is a big part of the oil and gas industry. We need those talents to come in and help us improve. In Valesto, for the last 3 years, we have spent 20 million ringgit a year in technology. That's 10% of our last year's profit as a benchmark, right? So we put a significant amount of investment, and a lot of companies are doing that, because we know that that's the only way for us to be able to move forward.
I want to route back a little bit of touch up on the point. So you mentioned Gen Z. I think one of the things agreeably we didn't do well is the tip of the iceberg. If you see other industry, they promote very well. Tapi tip dia sikit je. Kat bawah all the thing, they don't communicate. But here, we just didn't communicate well enough the attractive part of us. Sometimes like this morning I was discussing in the breakfast. Sometimes, we promote, not all the time you are oily, but, of course you handle certain things. But the poster is about helmet with oily coming in the face. Then I was asking, oh my God, macam mana orang nak join ni? So, but now the industry is evolving into more digitalized. We have sensors in the helmet. We have more digital device to have a lot of things autonomously controlled, and and so on and so forth. But that communication need to be done more. I mean, Megat, you have anything to add on this? How do we branding? Branding also very important.
We'll start with something simple. In fact, I want to give an example. One of you guys, actually, I was in Amsterdam attending a World Drilling Conference, and I know UTP sent a rep, and I was impressed that one of your students actually went on stage and sit with the panel among the CEOs of a drilling contractor company, okay? And what he said, right, that, okay, guys, we need to do, well, not we, because he's young, right? So you guys need to do a better job at hiring.
Yeah.
So use TikTok, use Instagram.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. Right? We don't do
Must
enough
document.
of that because, the Gen Z is the one that live in this social media world.
Yes.
Right? And, so
We will be
all
out of
need to
touch
do
if
that.
we are not in that loop, actually. So I think was very interesting moderating this session with all of you. Maybe, I know, Prof, you want to add anything on the oil and gas too? Of course, you are part of the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, just a quick one, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Riding on the comments made by Cik Azisham and Jim Gad, it's true. Oil and gas is not going to go because the base, the fact of the matter is that you won't be able to find at the moment. There's no source of energy that can replace the quantum that oil and gas is providing. I know we are going to nuclear, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, nuclear may have the capability, but it's not going to go. But it's about expanding the oil and gas dimension. Last time we talked about exploration, production, and then we talked about responsible use, and now we're talking about carbon sequestration. Yeah, actually putting it back. So all in all, the discipline is getting bigger and wider. The incorporation of technology is also getting wider, yeah, and more in depth. And these are all opportunities, yeah, all opportunities that we should all be working for. Yeah? So I don't agree. People say that oil and gas. I mean, those are statements that was made 30 or 40 years ago, and look where oil and gas have evolved. Yeah? So oil and gas is not a dying industry to me. Yeah?
Okay.
So all the best.
Okay.
Thank you. Me, as an alumni of UTP and a practitioner in oil and gas industry, obviously, it's a positioning of not defend, but a positioning of the truth. The truth to ensure that, people like you understand the reality that we face today. Sometimes it's a lot of expectation and a lot of, hoo-ha can go on the social media, but the real fundamentals stay. You must always not forgotten to see the fundamentals of, for example, where it is used, what is the usage, and so on. Like he said, nuclear, yes, nuclear can build power up, but the material science still rely on the oil and gas. But anyway, and as a UTP alumni, I believe we have so much to unleash from UTP. We have all the recipe that required. We have bright minds and culmination of thoughts that happening here, just like this event can attract other nations. Similarly, we have so many other initiatives. And we have talented workforce here, in UTP. And the industry, hopefully the ecosystem will be built upon to support the UTP, and I hope, inshallah.
Can I make one last comment?
Yes, please.
I would like to recognize, I think, international student attending UTP. So I'm sure in the future, you guys are going to be leaders in your country. Please do welcome Petronas and Malaysian companies to your country.
Wow, good tagging, good tagging.
Good marketing, good marketing.
Thank you. Very snappy. So, with that, we hope that UTP, one day will become globally, it is already globally recognized, but the top university at the global scale, not only at the Asia, but at the global. With that, as usual, my tradition still stays.
Puisi,
I always have a poem. So I have a poem also for all of you and also UTP. The title of the poem is Rise, Young Engineer. Beneath the rigs, beneath the sky, our energy flows, and so much why. Fossil fuels still standing tall, await your hands to shape it all. You start as a student, learning ground, but dreams when fed, who know bound. From labs to fields, from code to well, you write the stories we will tell. Rise with courage, lead with grace. Innovation is your place. Don't just join, transform the game. With purpose bold, not chasing the fame. This torch we pass, now yours to bear. So light the way with heart and care. Thank you very much. We will see again in the next series of podcasts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiasa Noruddin. Thank you so much for the panelists, engineer, technologists, Megat, and Cik Hazli, as well as Prof. Dato'. My biggest sincere appreciation to President for being here throughout the program until today. Thank you so much to Prof. Tang, to Cik Sharian, as well as all the students. I think this is a very good session. This is our first podcast for Faculty of Engineering, Petroleum Engineering. And again, nice to have all of you today. I think a lot of us learned from today's session, and I hope to have you again for the next time. And thank you so much for being here, for the commitment. Thank you for the students for being here. Again, give them a big round of applause. And see you again, inshallah, next time. Thank you and have a nice day. Thank you.
Yang penting timing. Malaysia bukan Malaysia timing. Ini memang our UTP timing. 12:30 sharp we finish.